So welcome everybody. This is the first of what will be definitely two and maybe three or more workshops that are on the topic of energy efficiency for low-income households. And this first one is is going to be a snapshot of the landscape of energy efficiency in New Mexico that is looking at low-income households. And for those of you, there's a number of folks here that may not know us, the Coalition of Sustainable Communities. We're a small organization. Beth Beloff is the executive director. Ken Hughes, myself, and Gary Payton are the other staff members. And we're a member organization that works with local governments on areas of energy policy, climate policy, and associated aspects of equity. Our members are the City of Albuquerque, City of Santa Fe, City of Las Cruces, and Santa Fe County to date. And so the goal of this series of workshops is really to move towards developing concrete actions that will help to increase access to the benefits of energy efficiency for low-income households. And this first workshop, I have a feeling that in some ways today might be a little bit frustrating because it's just going to be a lot of information being shared without time for conversation and likely not a lot of time for questions. So hopefully that'll just make you hungry to come back for the second workshop, which will be dialogue and getting into the details and possible solutions of some of these aspects that we might touch on today. And the reason for the structure of this first workshop is that depending on who you are and where you're working, you might not be aware of some of the different names and entities and the scope of work that is happening around energy efficiency. So for many of you, I know that a lot of you are colleagues on this call, on this webinar. And so a lot of this will be review and so I really appreciate your presence here, but this will make sure that I think everybody has a similar understanding of some of the basics when we get into the conversations in the subsequent workshops. And so without further ado, in the emails that were sent out, there were short bios for all of the presenters. We have an addition of Zully Rodriguez from the Partnership for Community Action. She's a community organizer there, and she's going to join in the last presentation with Ona Porter. And so her bio wasn't present, but we're very happy and grateful to have her join. And one last piece is that as questions and comments come up, I would ask that if you're able to note them down and save them till the last presentation before you put them in the chat. Just because there's a tendency for a lot of stuff to emerge in the chat, and then there's conversations happening in the chat, and we just want everybody to be present and focused on the presentations. But the questions and comments are super helpful and will certainly help and inform what comes next. So please do note them and please do share them in the chat at the end of the last presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Fiebelkorn of the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project to really introduce the landscape and provide the context and setting for the subsequent presentations.
Thanks, Christian. Can I share my screen? It's telling me that it's disabled.
Yeah. Uh, try now, Tammy.
Yes, that worked. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, can everybody see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today. I think this is one of the most important topics that we could be covering for the state of New Mexico right now. So Christian asked me to just kind of give an overview, a big picture idea of where we're at as a state. So I'm gonna just quickly go through a few slides to give you kind of that big picture view. So there's a lot of poverty in New Mexico. I think we all know that. Out of a population of around 2.1 million, almost 20% of us are living in poverty. So that's 400,000 people. And the average burden of those living in poverty, the average energy burden is 14%. Now, to put that in perspective, my energy burden is 1%. So, that's a huge amount of money coming out of somebody's limited income. And to make it worse, transportation burden for almost everyone is higher than their energy burden. So we're looking at 30% just off the top of low income folks' income just for getting around and having a home that they can live in. Doesn't leave a lot for mortgages, rent, food, medicine, all of the other things. So we definitely have a pretty large problem here in New Mexico. We have high energy burdens pretty much everywhere in the state. This is a map that comes from the GreenLink Equity Map for the state of New Mexico, the GEM platform. And the darker the purple, the more of an energy burden these counties have. And these are countywide. And so even the light purples have higher energy burdens than they should. They're considered high. And I'll just point out here, there's one spot in our state that has an average energy burden, and that is, of course, Los Alamos County. And so everywhere else, there's a lot of need, but particularly Las Vegas and Socorro, Deming, there's a lot of those really dark spots that show that there's definitely a need for some assistance. There's a problem in our energy burdens for urban areas. So this is the same GEM platform map for Albuquerque. And so it starts going down. What you saw before was just countywide, but we can drill down to census level data, census tract data. And as you can see here in Albuquerque, there's quite a few really dark spots on this map. And you'll be talking to Ona later in the agenda about this area here, the international district that has some of the highest levels of energy burden. But we see it also in Santa Fe, large swaths of high energy burdens. You see it in Las Cruces. There's the big triangle down there, right, that has excessive energy burdens. And so, it's definitely a problem that we're seeing in all of the member places for the Coalition for Sustainable Communities, right? But we also see huge problems in our rural areas. In some rural communities, we are seeing low and middle income people spend 20 to 37% of their income on energy. So this is just for low and middle income people. McKinley County, 37% of their income is being spent on energy, which is just incredibly unacceptable for me. So we see this problem statewide, and there's a couple of things that we can do to help. One is to reduce energy costs, obviously, and one is to reduce energy use. Now, let me talk about reducing energy costs a bit. We as a state do not have low income rates. And so that is really what is needed to provide some cost savings for low income people. And other states have them. It's really no big deal, but we just cannot get them passed here in the state of New Mexico. It's an issue that Prosperity Works has been working on for, I don't know, over a decade, probably 2 decades, I don't know. But we just had a bill that Cristina Ortez, the representative from Taos, tried really hard to get passed, and we just cannot get the low income rate. So we will continue pushing on that. In the meantime, the other way to reduce energy burden is to reduce energy use. And we do have great folks working on this statewide. I'll start with utility programs. So under the Efficient Use of Energy Act that's been in place and updated since 2005, we have a requirement for our IOUs, our investor-owned utilities, to offer energy efficiency programs. And within that bill, there is a requirement that at least 5% of that budget be spent on low income, specifically low income energy efficiency programs. So these are the numbers from 2019 for PNM, El Paso Electric, SPS, the New Mexico Gas Company. And you'll see that there's a wide variety of amounts being spent from the 5% all the way up to the New Mexico Gas Company, who definitely gets the gold star on providing for low income people. They're currently spending almost 30%. They have in the past gone above that. They've really done some innovative, unique things, and you'll hear about them later. But I did want to point out that some of these utilities spend most of their money through the MFA, which we're going to talk about in the next slide. But some, like El Paso Electric, spend their low income money through a third party provider, not MFA. And so just keep that in mind. There's not one way to provide low income energy efficiency for New Mexico. The utilities come up with very different strategies. So MFA, the Mortgage Finance Authority, has the Energy Smart program. And then this is New Mexico's Weatherization Assistance Program. And they get money from the Department of Energy, about 2.3 million. And these are all rounded. I'm not getting specific here. I just wanted to give you an overview. And then we get a lot of money for LIHEAP. Now, LIHEAP is a payment assistance program mostly, right? So if folks are unable to pay their bills, they can apply for LIHEAP and get assistance. But we do use 12% of the money that we have coming in, which is about 2.3 million, for weatherization. Now, I just want to point out that we could use up to 25%. So we're not maxing out the amount of our LIHEAP funds that are going for the long-term bill reduction stuff. So that's just to keep in the back of your mind. And then, as I mentioned, some utilities are given money through this program. So about 1.6 million of the utility funds from the previous slide end up in this whole house weatherization assistance program. And then, state appropriations. This year, none. Last year, they got $1 million. It's not a consistent thing, and there's no long-term recurring support for low-income folks in terms of energy efficiency from the state of New Mexico. So is that enough? And I just want to do some quick math here to just show you kind of where we're at in terms of really getting to help people. So we said there's 400,000 people living in poverty. Let's assume that that represents 100,000 homes. I think that's a really conservative number. I think it's probably many more homes than that. But let's just say 100,000 homes. Let's also assume that we're going to spend $5,500 per home, which again is pretty low. That is the number that MFA uses for the Energy Smart program for planning. But some of the work that we're doing here in Albuquerque that you'll hear about from ONA, we're looking at maybe $10,000 a home. And so best case scenario, 5,500. So that means we need $550 million to provide assistance to all of the low income homes in New Mexico. The actual amount we have per year, about 10.5. Now that's the total of the utility programs and the MFA Energy Smart dollars. So if you do that math, $550 million needed, 10.5 million a year, it's going to take us well over 50 years to provide services to all of our low income people. So obviously it's not enough. It's not even close to enough. I wanted to point out that 26 states spend at least double what New Mexico spends on energy efficiency improvements for low income residents. And some states are investing more than 10 times what New Mexico invests. So it's really, to me, very frustrating that our state hasn't really taken up this issue in any meaningful way. Here's just a comparison of the spending per low-income qualified resident in other Western areas. And as you can see, we are at the very, very low end of that. So there's a couple of things we can do to improve our energy efficiency provisions for low income. We could increase the LIHEAP funds that are used. So I mentioned that we're using 12% right now, but we could go up to 25. That's kind of a give and take. There's pros and cons to that, because we definitely need to provide short-term assistance to people so that they can pay their bills. We also want to make sure that they have that long-term assistance to actually reduce their bills so that they don't get in this position again of not being able to pay for their utility bills. We could increase state funding, and that wouldn't take much because right now state funding is kind of zero. And so we'll talk a little bit about seed legislation and low income rates legislation that has been proposed and hopefully can be proposed again in the next legislative session. But even short of that, just having a state appropriation that is recurring and is big, that can actually take a chunk of this problem off of the plate and have it go to MFA, that's needed. So there's a lot of things that we can do on the state level. We can increase utility programs. So, the Efficient Use of Energy Act has savings requirements for efficiency programs, and it also has requirements for spending, and you saw the budgets earlier. But to increase them further, we need decoupling. So we need to take away the utilities' disincentive to provide energy efficiency. We need more folks, more cities and counties and interveners of all sorts at the PRC on energy efficiency cases. SWEEP always intervenes. We're there pushing for bigger and better, but we could definitely use backup. And we could push for shareholder funds to be used to go above the Efficient Use of Energy Act. So right now, utilities can spend 3 to 5% of their revenue on efficiency programs. There is absolutely no reason that they can't go above that 5% for low income and have some of that spending covered by shareholder funds. So that's another way. You need to push for co-ops and munis to offer energy efficiency programs. So the Efficient Use of Energy Act covers only IOUs. And so if you live in a co-op or a muni service territory, you may or may not get some small level of energy efficiency programs, but it's nothing like what you're going to get from the IOUs. So we need to make sure that folks get services no matter where they live. And then there's opportunities for cities and counties to participate and really improve the efficiency services for their constituents. One thing is the Community Energy Efficiency Project, or the C project, and Ona will talk about this later, but this is a really cool approach to providing energy efficiency. It's a kind of a tie-in between the city of Albuquerque, a nonprofit, which is Prosperity Works, and a lot of community partners to really go into these homes and provide full service energy efficiency programs. And then that business model, the C program or the C project, has been modeled into the Community Energy Efficiency Development Block Grants legislation that we were talking about. We really need to set up this seed fund at Energy and Minerals and fund the seed. And so that bill will be moving again in 2022, hopefully with low income rates in it as well. So that just gives you an overview of kind of where we're at as a state. And I know we'll be hearing about some of the innovative programs that the utilities are doing and that the city of Albuquerque is doing. There's lots of opportunity. There's certainly no shortage of need. So I'm really excited that this group of people are going to start really focusing on this issue in a way that can bring meaningful change to our low income residents. Thanks, Christian.
Thanks, Tammy. That was a fantastic presentation and a wonderful overview. And we're going to jump right into Troy Cucchiara from the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority to talk about the Weather Assistance Program. Troy?
Thank you, Christian. And Tammy, that was an awesome presentation. I really appreciate the information that you shared. And it was very informative. I'm going to attempt to share my screen so that we can go through a PowerPoint very quickly. Let's see how we can do this. Whiteboard. not sure if it's going to allow me to do what we want to do. Can everybody see that at this point?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, well then we'll do it. And so New Mexico Energy Smart is a low-income weatherization program in New Mexico. For those of you who have not heard of that, we are funded through the Department of Energy, federal LAHEAP, some of the utilities that Tammy had mentioned, and the state. Dimitri Flores and myself are the program managers of this. And this is the installations and retrofits that we provide. I really like this to be something that is remembered by the group. I'd like to break it down into some categories that you could go back to at a later time and remember more easily. The first category is baseload measures. Baseload measures is anything that would be using electricity or energy throughout the entire year consistently, more or less, if you don't really count the time that the lights are on in the winter more so than the summertime. So that would be lighting, water heater efficiency and delivery of the system, and refrigerators. Anything else that you would think of that would fall into that category would be a baseload measure. The next category is heating and cooling, or what we call space conditioning. If you can think of anything that goes into that category, we would address it through our process. That would be repair, it could be replacement, it could be insulating the ducts, sealing the duct system, thermostats, making tune-ups, making the systems more efficient just by a simple diagnostic testing and tune-up. Then we get into building shell. A building shell is a very large category. There are only 2 things listed there. However, if you think through this, you can start coming up with things that would fall into the air sealing category. If windows are leaky and they're old, that would fall into the air sealing category. Window replacement could also sort of fall into an insulation category, because we know that an R value of a new window is going to be different from an R value of an old window. Insulation, when we look at that, think of the entire shell of the building that is accessible. We can insulate the attic, the walls, the crawl space, mobile homes, mobile home bellies, everything having to do with insulation will fall into that category. And then here's something that's really big that weatherization provides, which is not part of energy efficiency, but it's very important. And I really want to emphasize that for every home that we spend federal dollars on, we address health and safety. And again, we can think of the different categories that would fall into this section. However, it might be easier to just think through what might be health and safety. And the way that you figure this out without ever having to ask us or look it up is, if we need to do something to a house to make it more energy efficient, and that action causes a health and safety problem, or we need to address a health and safety problem in order to do something for energy efficiency, that would fall into the health and safety category. Most commonly, we'll see diagnostic testing, safety devices, appliance replacement, and mechanical ventilation. How many houses do we serve per year? Most of the topics that we were hoping to present today are almost, there's not one easy answer for all of them, because the 650 to 700 homes that we serve per year is going to include every home that we touch. Those are not homes that are fully weatherized, and we'll get to that in just a minute. We don't really like to consider just installing some of the low-hanging fruit as touching a home. However, that is part of this number. It's a very small part of the number. Probably about 100 of the 650 to 700 are homes that receive just light bulbs or water heater jacket, pipe insulation, low flow shower heads, but the majority of the homes we're doing something substantial to. How many houses qualify for low income? I know that Tammy had showed a slide that was a 19%. We're using a slightly different number to come up with our 174,000, which is about 22%. We're basing it off the 200% of the poverty level. And also we're adding in some of the disabilities, which may not have been included on the 19% slide. People who are disabled and can prove that receive weatherization from the Department of Energy source, whether or not they can prove that they're low income. And that's one of the distinctions. The average dollars that are allocated per household is $7,400, and that's on the federal level. Now, oftentimes we do add more funding sources to a house. There are some people on this call, Cindy, Isaac, and Louisa will tell you that we do not like to walk away from homes. As a last resort, we'll walk away or we'll defer it. But it's just not the best practice. If somebody is already hurting, we're not going to kick them when they're down and tell them no. We really try and find ways to help these folks out. And sometimes that means putting more than what the federal dollars allow into the home to get it up to speed. What percent of the wait list is served annually? For fully weatherized, we're looking at about 10%. So about 300 out of the 3,000 that is on our wait list, and 23% of the 3,000 we're touching. Fully weatherized means that we'll do a partial weatherization as an emergency. Sometimes they go back on the waiting list for the federal funding until they're further fully weatherized. What are our biggest challenges? Right now, it's getting to the people who need it first and quick. It's very difficult to work with all of the funding sources and all of the rules and regulations that each has. Sometimes there's somebody that calls and needs a furnace today. It's January, and we just aren't able to do it because our hands are tied. That's one of our biggest challenges, is to find the funding that allows for those emergency services without having to go through all the red tape. What can we identify that is not being addressed? Hands down, it's all types of rehabilitation. As you know, the housing stock in New Mexico is old, and a lot of homes are just, they're in bad condition. And we do need more than what the funding allows to get these homes up to speed. How can we increase effectiveness? I would say to work more with utilities and to know what entities provide other services that can be used in conjunction with weatherization. If I could wave a magic wand today, it would be that every area that we go into would have funding available from one of the two utilities. That would be great, because we can address so much more by doing so. What we're doing with local government collaboration, we are working with the state. We did not receive funding this year, like Tammy had mentioned, however, we did last year, and we are using some of that this year for some of the emergency services. We do work with housing authorities for each of the agencies. Sometimes that can help with application. And we're working with the Energy Smart Academy. This is really important because they provide detailed training to our service providers so that the weatherization services can be done in a manner that is safe and that is up to the standards. The Energy Smart Academy is out of the Santa Fe Community College. And Amanda Hatherley is present on the call as well with the Energy Smart Academy. That is all I have.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much, Troy, for that great overview of the work that you all do. We'll jump right into our next presentation, which will be Dawn DeGroft from PNM to talk about their energy efficiency program and work that they do targeting low income. Dawn?
Thank you, everybody, for having me this morning. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Currently, PNM service territory, we have about 525,000 customers.
Dawn,
And
sorry, did you want to share your screen?
Can you see my screen?
No, let's see. It looks like, so your voice is coming through from a call-in number.
Okay, I shared my screen.
Yeah, okay, I see your, I see you've also got a box here, but the screen sharing doesn't seem to be working.
Okay, let me make sure that on the okay, can you see it now?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Currently, PNM service territory, we have about 525,000 customers. ranging from Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, Los Lunas, all the way down through Lordsburg and Clayton, and as well as Deming. We also serve our tribal community, which composes 8 tribal areas. We currently offer 5 low-income programs, and we have 3 new offerings in 2021. Those offerings are our new low-income home energy checkup, weatherization, maintenance, and a new home construction component. Due to COVID-19 and us not being able to get into homes, we had to go to a virtual format. And in that virtual format, we do an over-the-phone virtual call phone audit with our customers. We send out a customized DI measures that relate directly to their home, and we send the measures to the customer 2 weeks after the initial phone audit. Then we follow up with the customer, ensure that those measures were delivered to the customer. And then after that, we go ahead and get the energy hogs off the grid for our low-income customers and offer them a free refrigerator replacement. If the refrigerator is 10 years or older and it's non-Energy Star, and 12 years or older if it is an Energy Star. We have a third party deliver the refrigerator inside the home following COVID-19 procedures if the customer feels comfortable. If not, then the customer may put the refrigerator outside, and then we go ahead and we pick up the refrigerator from the outside and leave the new one outside. Some of the DI measures include aerators, low-flow faucet heads, shower heads, an advanced power strip, a free Wi-Fi thermostat for customers with refrigerated air at no charge. And during COVID, since our energy specialists cannot be in the homes, we do put those customers on a waiting list. And then once COVID restrictions are lifted, then we will go back and install that. We're very fortunate that we partner with New Mexico Gas Company on this program, and therefore we're able to offer the aerators and the low flow shower heads to those consumers that have gas hot water heating. We also offered the new low income program offerings for 21 with the weatherization. For these, we are partnering with Energy Works as well as New Mexico Gas Company. A lot of these will be taking place with our tribal communities because this was already started as a pilot early in 2020 when COVID shut down a lot of the projects that we already had in the works. During this, we will be doing infiltration reduction, duct sealing, ceiling insulation, tank and pipe insulation, as well as replacing air filters and offering EDAP replacements in these homes. We will be partnering with veteran organizations, city organizations, as well as tribal and nonprofit organizations that work directly with our implementer for the referrals. We will also begin doing maintenance on evaporative coolers for the startup as well as the winter shutdown. We will also be offering some additional energy efficiency services, and these are all services that will be restricted to our low-income households. Installing weather stripping on exterior doors, caulking windows, air seal leaks throughout the home. Also, on our new home construction program, we'll be partnering with Habitat for Humanity and HomeWise that will help identify low-income families that will be moving into new homes. The builders will be receiving additional incentives to make those homes even more energy efficient. The average cost on these homes is approximately $1,300 for our weatherization and maintenance programs. So we're really excited about trying to start these new programs up. As for our multifamily program, our implementer is working on some additional criteria to expand the low-income eligibility for these properties due to listening to our stakeholders. And we are also expanding some measures this year for our multifamily program because during the year of COVID, we weren't able to get into as many multifamily properties as we had hoped due to our customers being inside of their homes, due to the rent moratorium. Some of the landlords didn't have the extra capital that they had wanted to invest in their properties due to individuals not being able to afford their rent by themselves. Also, we're increasing health and safety measures through energy efficiency by providing the lighting in the common areas, as well as offering lower energy costs to the consumer and improving low-income neighborhoods through providing the health and safety of their residents. We also offer some kit programs, and these are easy savings kits. I'm going to start with those. And the easy savings kits are, we work our LIHEAP lists, and we offer those kits that are direct mail outs. We can either offer those through the customers receiving a postcard in the mail, and they send it back to us and they get a pre-selected kit. Or this year in 2020, we also offer a customized kit that the customer will go onto a website and they can choose a preset value of measures that match their home. So they can pick a certain amount of A19 bulbs, globe bulbs, candelabras. They will receive a smart strip. And out of those measures, then they will be matched directly to their home, to their needs. As far as our homework kits, approximately 40% of those kits go directly to low-income families. It's a 5th grade and high school kit that is offered to those students. It includes a nightlight, energy efficient bulbs, faucet aerators, and shower heads, as well as an educational program that the teachers teach virtually this year. Due to the pandemic, the kits were dropped off at the schools and the students picked them up from the school, and then they were able to go online, play a game that matched with 8 energy efficiency topics. They received a certificate of completion. Once all 8 badges were earned, then the teachers could go and apply for a mini grant.
Hi, Don. And this is Christian. If you have a few more minutes to wrap up for us to keep on schedule.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Energy Smart program, we partner with MFA. As you know, Troy did an excellent job explaining about the baseload measures, the heating and cooling, the air sealing. Out of the 650 to 700 homes that he said that they serve, we serve about 24% in a partnership with them. These low-income stats are for 2018 through 2020. You can refer to our annual reports for the actuals if you would like to see more additional information on this. You can see what we spend here. As for our challenges moving forward, we do struggle with keeping our low-income programs cost-effective. We are researching how to remove possibly our low-income programs from our EE portfolio and have them evaluated separately. Our low-income households need a more comprehensive repairs to the homes and energy efficiency can help with, such as electrical, structural, and broken windows and doors. Some of the things and some of the challenges we face are the process and how it shows down progress. The things that have helped us are working with our community groups, partnering with Energy Works, New Mexico Gas Company, and MFA. We look forward to any questions that you may have. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, and thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much, Dawn. We're gonna now, so that was a taste of some of the utility, electricity utility programs. And we're gonna move on to get a snapshot of some of the natural gas utility programs. So joining us from New Mexico Gas Company is Steve Casey.
Morning, everyone. I am not going to have a slideshow, and in hindsight, I regret that because I'd rather have you all looking at slide deck than looking at me the whole time, but I'll get through it anyway, I think. As you've already heard through Troy and Dawn somewhat, and you'll hear again from Doug Campion with Energy Works and Ravi with ICAST, some of the things that they do for the New Mexico Gas Company. But we reached the low-income community and households through 3 separate programs that we have. One is the what we call our income qualified program, the majority of which is run through the Energy Smart program that Troy talked about a little bit ago. And then we have the Energy Works, Doug Campion's group, that we've contracted with to reach out to our Native American community. That's been a really strong program for us. We went through a pilot on that a couple of years ago. It worked out very well, getting that community, working with the housing authorities of those different communities worked really well. So we created a full-blown program for that, and it's working out very well for us. And then you'll hear from Ravi with ICAST as well, that our multifamily program, we reach not only market rate, but the low-income units, apartment complexes as well. And those are the 3 ways we we presently reach our low-income household members of our community. Just to let you know, Tammy was showing 2019 program year. Since 2019, we upgraded or updated our program. We are now at about 7.8 million as the overall portfolio. 2.3 million of that, again, we're looking at 30%, goes towards low-income programs, the 3 programs that I mentioned. One thing that I like to point out is that over 2 million of that 2.3 million goes directly into low-income households, funding measures and services for those customers. So again, 30%, but we're real proud of that. The different things we do obviously are all natural gas related. You've heard a lot of that, caulking, weather stripping, duct and air sealing, insulation, water heater, replacements if need be, but tank wraps, pipe wraps, high efficiency shower head aerators and shower heads, thermostats. We also have them install carbon monoxide detectors, which we think is very important. Approximately in single family households, we can get to 340 to 360 annual therm savings, and we're spending $1,600 to $1,800 probably per home when we're looking at that much savings. Obviously, on the average, that's an average. Some homes would be a lot less than that if they don't, if they're a flat roof home and we can't get attic insulation, if their furnace and water heater are fine, there's not much that we can do with the duct work. We might only spend $300 or $400 in a particular home, but we might spend a lot more than that if a furnace needs to be replaced. To be cost effective, we can't spend the entire amount to replace a furnace. But if we can help leverage other funds, as for instance through MFA, through their federal funding, then we can also help get furnaces replaced. So we're looking with MFA, we'd like to see them getting to about 500 single family homes a year. They had a hard time this last year, as you can well imagine, because of COVID. But that's kind of our unwritten rule or goal that we have for them is up to 500 homes, single family homes a year would be great. With Native American, we're getting about 270. That's our goal for that as well, single family household. And then with multifamily, this last year, ICAST was able to do 3,900 units during our program year. A lot of that this particular last year was for market rate customers. I think Don mentioned a little bit, and Ravi can probably fill you in a little bit more when it gets to him. But for the most part, we weren't able to get to a lot of the low income for reasons you can imagine, that it didn't have the monthly rent being paid. So they had probably a little bit slow and low on getting funding to be able to do stuff. So this last year was a lot of market rate, but typically about half of the multifamily units that are served are low income, and the other half being market rate for the most part. One of the things that Tammy's mentioned and you've heard and that what we're trying to do as well is we'd really like to see, and Troy talked about this as well, as furnace replacements. And we'd like to get a furnace replacement program in place, but as I mentioned, we aren't able to fund and be cost effective to pay for an entire furnace replacement. Therefore, we need some funding from another source. And we tried last year meaning 2020, not 21, in getting a bill through that would provide some funding for furnace replacements. And as Troy mentioned, we've tried to work with Troy, or we've had discussions with Troy on the need for furnaces that are red tagged or that need to be replaced. And it'd be great if we could figure out a program for that. So we would like to maybe work with somebody on getting some kind of a bill or some kind of funding, whether it's through federal funding or state funding, that would help in that. So that's a future thing. And speaking of future stuff, one of the other things that we're doing is that we're actually going in for a variance that I hope to file next week that will support us being able to work with community service organizations and to be able to get into homes that MFA is not able to get into or that aren't on Native American lands with Energy Works. And because right now the way it works, what we've filed for low income is that we've been approved to have MFA run income qualified program, been approved to have Energy Works run the Native American program, and we've been approved to have ICAST run multifamily low income piece of that as well. And that's great, and all three of them are doing a good job, but that ties our hands on being able to work with anybody else to do things, unless you just went through our individual programs of, we have rebates for water heating and space heating and all that stuff. But what we want to do is open that up to give us a little bit more flexibility on working with somebody besides ICAST, Energy Works, or MFA, if need be, if a community organization contracts out or has somebody else besides them, so we can help with these neighborhood community projects. And so we're going in for a variance this next week, I hope, next week, that, and hopefully I'm positive that we're going to be able to get approval from the commission to spend some money this year and next year on helping these community projects, these neighborhood projects. And if they work very well for us, which we expect they will, then when we do our next application, which is August of 22, we hope to include that in our overall portfolio. So we have some flexibility to work with organizations to be able to help our low-income communities as a whole. So that's really one of the challenges we have, is to try to get those types of things done. And we hope we experience lays the groundwork for us to be able to do that in the future. And hopefully we can get some funding, as Tammy mentioned earlier too, that one bill fell through this last year. We hope to get another one, or that support another one that comes through in 22, along with hopefully federal funding that goes into an agency, that state agency that we can work with and help funding as far as that goes. And then one of the things that's probably, it's hard to get around that we just can't make cost effective is belly insulation for mobile homes. We'd like to see if we can do something with wall insulation as well, or possibly windows. But if we can find a way to do something that saves natural gas, then we're willing to listen to that, and we're willing to fund that. And other than that, I think I addressed most of the stuff that you wanted us to address, Christian. So I think I'll leave it at that, unless anybody has any questions, or we can talk about that at the end of this presentation.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much, Steve. That was a great overview, and that was nice. Also getting a little bit of a snapshot of some of the new directions that you guys are going in. To complement the kind of the last three presentations, we're going to now move to Douglas Campion, who runs Energy Works. Doug?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Christian. Thank the Coalition for putting this together. I'm lucky enough to have an opportunity to work with lots of people that are on this call, and I appreciate that. It's interesting, we work with folks individually, but the Coalition has really done a great job of putting us all in one place to talk about this program, and that's great. And it's really neat to see people that I work with now and people that I got my start with 12 years ago in the Weatherization program. And Cindy's not on screen right now, and Amanda from Santa Fe Community College got me my first BPI certification in 2010. So it's been quite a journey, and it's been really exciting for us. So Energy Works really specializes in utility-funded energy efficiency services. So we do residential, income qualified, and commercial projects on behalf of most of the utility companies: El Paso Electric, New Mexico Gas, PNM, Zia Natural Gas, Raton Natural Gas. We also work in El Paso. We have an office in Las Cruces, and sort of we're now working really in most parts of the state of New Mexico. So we serve about 2,500 homes a year. As each of the utility companies are adding more innovative measures, I think we'll see more services per home, which is a really great thing, and maybe a reduction in the total number of customers. But as a company, we serve about 2,500 income qualified families a year. So when we go in for electric work, it depends on a number of things, but the first thing that we do is do a home energy assessment for both gas and electric. And then what we're looking for are, qualified measures where we're going to be able to create energy savings. And so, of course, in the beginning, that was a frustrating process because we want to do all kinds of things to the home. But because of the requirement to be cost effective, we do have some limitations. And I'll tell you, over the last 10 years, the utility companies have pushed more and more to deliver more to the customers. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing. So in 2010, when we started, we installed CFL light bulbs and refrigerators. And as we look at 2021, New Mexico Gas and PNM and El Paso Electric are challenging us. They're challenging our engineering to put in as many services as we can for each home while remaining cost effective. And that's really been a wonderful evolution in the utility funded energy efficiency programs across the state. So kudos to the program directors at the utilities that are really pushing that out, and to all the advocates like SWEEP and other organizations that intervene and push in these cases. So our per home average is about $1,100 across all of our utilities as a company. So that also includes Texas. It's a little bit higher if we just look at our New Mexico customers, because the New Mexico programs really are more robust than what we see in our Texas utility service. But it does include everything from ceiling insulation, health and safety, to the extent that we're doing advanced gas leak testing. We are looking for carbon monoxide detectors. We are making sure that the electrical system is safe for installation. We are cleaning and sealing the air ducts. We are reducing air infiltration. Can you guys hear me okay? Great. So I'm on hotel Wi-Fi.
Okay.
It's kind of unreliable. And so Christian sent over a list of really good questions for us. I'm sorry, back to services. And so typically for us, it's LED light bulbs, advanced power strips, air sealing, duct sealing, attic insulation, all of the water conservation, like high efficiency shower heads, faucet aerators, water heater tank, and pipe insulation. Recently we've been able to do evaporative coolers, and we look forward to doing the evaporative cooler maintenance program with P&M, which is a brand new measure that will be really exciting to improve the performance of existing evaporative coolers. But with Christian's questions that he sent over, one of them was, what percentage of homes have been served? And so I just took a quick look at Doña Ana County, and we've got a population of 218,000 people, according to the census, 77,000 households. And so far, we've served about 18% of that total number of households. If you look at the number of customers we've served in the whole county, versus that 77,000, which was kind of a shocking number to me. It felt a lot higher than I expected. And with our progress of about 700 homes served in Doña Ana County each year, we're serving about 1%. And so that was kind of good news for me. But then when I realized we're serving 1%, that means we have 100 years of work. So we're going to call it the 3-generation plan. So the grandchildren of all of our technicians will have job security in Doña Ana County until we get to 100% of all of the households. So we definitely need to do more. And then I compared it to what we're doing in the Native American Energy Efficiency Program with New Mexico Gas. And I thought, one of the pueblos we're working on right now is Okewingé, and it has 500 housing units. And this year we might serve up to 100 of those homes. And so all of a sudden that number changes, and we're doing 20% of the homes in a community, and it's only a 5-year project. So I barely have job security, right? So it's really interesting. And I think that community-based approach is one of these great innovations that we're having. And so, we can't, if you look at the entire, ocean, there's a ton of ground to cover. But if we're able to just take that one part, in this case, that community, we're able to really be effective. And so I don't know that one is more perfect than the other, but certainly it helps to inform our work with income qualified families to say this community approach is so interesting. And so we work in just a broad spectrum of programs. And so we've got a lot of interesting different reference points. Some of Christian's other questions were to look at challenges. And I think for us, one of the challenges that we always have is that it's too good to be true, right? We have customers that are like, I can't believe this energy efficiency program is free. There must be a catch. I think one of the other problems that we have is workforce training. That's a critical part of our ability to deliver energy efficiency services, because we need folks that are going to be technically skilled, but also skilled at working with income qualified families, seniors, people of mixed documentation status. And that same person needs to be able to caulk a window or install insulation and understand the safety of it. So really getting a good workforce and good technicians on board is going to be really critical. The big hole for me that I see as we work to deliver this is going to be, I just call it resilience funding. And it's the idea of, getting a new roof isn't cost effective for an energy efficiency program, but it's really important that people have access to a new roof so that we can put insulation in the attic. so we can add duct insulation without the risk of it getting water damaged. And I think the exploration of these paired funding sources, and Ona will talk about it with capital stacking, is really going to be just a cornerstone of moving energy efficiency forward. And we're participating in a project in Albuquerque, which is going to be really exciting. And it's putting together funding from PNM and New Mexico Gas and the city of Albuquerque to really look at that resilience funding piece, because the city of Albuquerque is providing funds. So I think it's the first time that we'll be able to stack 1, 2, and 3. So 2 utilities, electric, gas, and then have some additional money for homes. And I think that'll be an interesting model as it unfolds over the next few months. So I think there's a lot of innovation and a lot of opportunity. I really agree with what the other speakers have said, and I really appreciate the coalition for putting together this kind of workshops where we can begin to collaborate and discuss these issues and items and all of the opportunity to serve New Mexicans.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Doug. Another great complementary perspective to the work happening in New Mexico. And now we're going to jump right into Ravi Malhotra, who is the president and founder of ICAST, to talk about multifamily housing work.
Thanks, Christian. Are you going to share or should I pull up?
Yeah, let me see. I can.
I have it too, if handy, if you want.
Let's see. Yeah, why don't you pull it up, Ravi? See, I'm not sure where it disappeared to. Thank you.
Yes. Can you see it?
Yep. Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. Let's get started. Appreciate the opportunity to talk. So a little about us. I'm based in Denver. We're a nonprofit that works, does energy efficiency nationwide. Our approach is essentially we're looking at opportunities that we can scale and be innovative and can self-sustain. That's kind of our approach to working on programs. Our sandbox where we work, we're solely focused on the multifamily market, multifamily affordable housing. That's the MFAH. Get used to the acronyms in our world, right? That's our sole customer. We offer what's called a one-stop shop, which is essentially trying to provide all the services necessary to do a green upgrade for that client base, trying to meet all of their needs. That's kind of the customer-centric nature on how we operate. So how do we do the work? We're focused on early retirement. What that means is we're looking at entire multifamily properties, our customers, and changing out stuff that might even be working. Furnaces, as an example, the fact that they're 20-year-old furnaces were operating, we're looking to change them all out. We do not work with replace on fail. So one furnace died, or right, a turn is when an apartment empties out. That's not what we do. But because of that, we're looking at deep retrofits, right? We're doing entire properties. So we're looking at 20+%. We're actually at 23% savings across our national portfolio. This year, we'll upgrade about 25,000 low and moderate income households across the nation, and some $60 million worth of savings as a result of that work. So in New Mexico, we started with MFA back in 2014, doing multifamily work. Through MFA, worked for New Mexico Gas back in 2015. And then we started for HUD using energy performance contracts back in 2017. So we've been at it for a few years in New Mexico. Some numbers for you guys. Approximately 10% of the residential population in New Mexico is in apartments. That's about 120,000 households, roughly, and scattered through 3,000 properties. So some of them are really small and Some of them are extremely large, but that's our sandbox again. So last year, 2020, we served about 31 properties. You can read through these numbers, about 2,000 households, 1,100 or so of those were low income. It was a little tougher through the COVID times, but it's picked up since then. We haven't had much issue getting back, especially with the market rate properties. We're sharing what's our total project investments, and then the annual savings in million BTUs, because we may have some therms and also some electric savings, even on a furnace, for example. You have an ECM motor, and there are some energy savings in kWh. And then the annual utility cost savings, we're now approaching almost $270,000. This is all based on using the New Mexico TRM, the Technical Resource Manual that the PRC requires us and the utilities require us to follow. Cumulative impact since we've been in New Mexico, about 140 properties served. Again, you can look at the numbers, about 12,000 households, just under 5,000 low-income households, about $10 million in total investments. And we're running at $1.7 million in utility cost savings annually. And that's the good news that a lot of people forget about energy efficiency, although we're all energy efficiency enthusiasts here in this room, but right, what work we did this year provides savings, but the work we did last year, the year before that, and the year before that, et cetera, is still providing energy savings on an ongoing basis. So the annual savings keep growing as we keep growing the programs. And then the lifetime savings are huge. Some other impacts, we also have a workforce training program, and we've engaged with about 210 youth with YDI and YouthWorks primarily, and some with VIC, Veterans Integration. This is direct jobs created or indirect jobs as a result of the investments made. Carbon emissions, so we track all of these impacts and metrics, and total utility bill savings, if you add everything up over the lifetime, is starting to approach almost 20 million, and that's just in New Mexico. So again, right, the beauty of energy efficiency is those savings, and the impact we can make is immense. What have we installed? It's pretty much anything and everything you can think of when it comes to efficiency, right? High efficiency furnaces, heat pump HVACs, insulation, et cetera, windows included. So it runs the gamut of what's possible. Some challenges. One of the biggest challenges in the affordable housing space or the low income space is the timing. There's a lot of regulatory hurdles. For example, if you're a LIHTC property, which is a low income housing tax credit property, it's very hard to do a comprehensive upgrade between your 15-year holding period. Investors are just not happy to do it. The regulations are not set to be able to do that, and that applies across the board for the affordable housing, which is, for the most part, a regulated market. Another challenge we see is the myth of green. When you're talking with developers, owners, property managers, it's automatically they think, oh, if I'm going to be energy efficient, that has to be expensive. I don't have the money, I can't afford it. And so I think there's an opportunity here for a concerted effort through the state or others, right, to try and bust that myth. In New Mexico, another one challenge is the lack of a stick. So you've seen all the carrots, right, from PNM and New Mexico Gas and MFA and the weatherization, et cetera, programs, which is offering incentives in the city or whatever. But there's very little code standards or regulatory requirements to be green. And this is, again, relative compared to other states that we work in. New Mexico is probably at the lowest end of the totem pole. in terms of the strength of the codes and standards and the green requirements. And then lack of funds, and specifically I'm referring to, so looking at it from a scale and sustainability perspective. So I'm not talking about free money that can be put in, because we believe there's only so much free money that can be thrown in. But at least from a multifamily perspective, there's no reason the owners cannot put in an investment because they benefit from it. But access to lower cost financing or some kinds of credit enhancements, I think would do a lot to try and move the needle. If the state or whoever can get into that aspect of it. And at the end of the day, right, why are we doing all of this? There's an affordable housing issue, which energy efficiency can help resolve, and very well, because that investment in upgrades, right, hits the pocket in terms of lower utility bills for years to come. It obviously helps with the climate change issues, and it creates local jobs and local economic development. So that's all I had. Thanks.
That was great. Thank you, Ravi. So yeah, big thanks to all the presenters so far that have given us a little snapshot of utility programs, the work in multifamily housing, the work in single households, in tribal communities, utility programs. And we're going to finish now with a look at a particular program that's been unfolding in Albuquerque that brings together a lot of these different stakeholders. And the presentation will be by Ona Porter of Prosperity Works and Zully Rodriguez of Communities Partnership for Community Action.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and actually presenting a model of coming together in the best interest of the goals that we all share. We think that that is absolutely critical in terms of getting to the place that we are all seeking. So we look at Prosperity Works energy efficiency as a platform for creating sustainable communities, preserving housing stock, reducing costs and carbon emissions, improving the health, safety, and comfort of homes, decreasing exposure to emissions that have significant health impacts. So it's really a comprehensive and social and environmental justice approach that we take. Our capital stacking model, which has been referred to by Tammy and by Doug and others, really includes New Mexico Gas Company, PNM, City of Albuquerque funding, and also the Office of Senior Affairs and the Albuquerque Fire Department, and philanthropy for the purposes of doing whole house initiatives. Doug referred to the problems, and Steve did as well, that many times we're in a home, we know that there are major improvements that need to be made, but because of the restrictions on the money that is available, that is not possible. And so we have tried to create a model that is different than that. That model is actually created on work that we did by leveraging the PNM low-income programs over about 18 months, in which we went into about 300 homes and provided services there. While there, we also did a comprehensive study with the people who are the recipients of the opportunities we were providing. And there we learned things that may not be surprising to any of you, but we think deserve our attention. And those are that the homeowners were living on $25,000 a year or less, 85% of them, and they were in a family size of 3 to 5. Their energy burdens were extremely high, and so high that they were sacrificing food, medicine, and medical care in order to pay those bills. They also, 201, had major restoration needs in their homes that were unaddressed. So based on those understandings, we created a model that is now literally is being launched this week in the International District of Albuquerque. Tammy mentioned to you the energy burden map. That map in Albuquerque points directly to the International District, and where we see those energy burdens exceeding 25 and 30% of people's incomes, which, you know, just take a minute and think about what that would mean to you if you were paying 30% of your income for your energy only. It's enormous. So in this capital stacking model, what is happening is that we are working with community partners, and we think that's critical. And Zully is going to talk about the success of doing that, using that approach in a minute. But what we're doing is using those community partners to identify homes in need of the services that we're going to provide. And essentially what they do is provide the gateway. One of the things that was mentioned is the idea, is it too good to be true? And honestly, we're glad in many ways that people have internalized that message. But that's a barrier really to providing service. And so when you have a community member reaching out to another community member, that issue is no longer an issue. And that is the model that we have used very successfully. And as a matter of fact, with Zully's leadership, we provided services in 218 homes in 10 weeks in our relationship with the P&M low income project. So it's a new model that removes barriers and creates opportunities that have not been previously available to those most in need and hardest to reach. And I'd like Zully to talk to you about the model that we have used that's been so successful.
Thank you, Anna. I will try to share my screen.
Yep, you should be able to, Zully. Great.
Okay. So you can see it?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Zully Rodriguez, and I'm the community organizer for the Partnership for Community Action. And I'm also trainer for the Communities for Education and Action. So PCA is a grassroots nonprofit organization in Albuquerque, and our work is centered on building power. We start over 30 years ago investing in people, building leaders, and organizing communities as change makers. PCA work to develop leaders to become civically engaged and advocate for system level change. So because of this, it was a natural partnership with Prosperity Works and the P&M Energy Efficiency work, closing the information gap around energy efficiency impact, and working alongside community to have real impact, and has helped us to engage over 300 families, identify community needs, and provide real-time assistance. Our program right now, it's have reached about 300 homes for energy audits. We reach families, low income or very low income households. We reach speaking Spanish only household. We also reach grandparent household. That is a group that is really hard to reach because of different things like their inability to stay out in the community. We also reach immigrant, hard to reach household for different issues like immigration, for example. So our organizations has a group of parent leaders that is called Communities for Education in Action. And this group of parent leaders are people from the community. So they are the people who has a really deep understanding of the community, and the community knows them. So the community trusts. So these leaders are part of the community, and for a program, it's really beneficial because if the community hear about the program from someone they know and trust, that makes the job easier. So for this reason, our partnership is being really successful. So one of the biggest challenges we found working with this program, obviously this year, was the COVID-19. So that refrain our leaders to be in home with the clients. So that's make the work really hard. Other the challenge that we have was the ineligibility to do it to immigrant status. Some programs require at least one of the or the household have to be to have a social security. So a lot of this household do not have that. Also ineligibility due to lack of documentation under their name. We just discovered that there are a lot of families that for different reasons, especially the immigration, all the bills are not under their name. So they cannot apply for programs because they are not in the bills. So another biggest challenge we have is language barriers. Fortunately, in this program, PNM was able to provide with Spanish speaker person to make this audits. And another big challenge we have is assumptions. So assumptions are the enemy of this work, and one of the reasons that the good programs do not reach the families that really need them. So programs need to understand that they are the new kids on the block, and the community does not recognize them, and they do not trust them. So we really believe that the best way for a new program to be successful in the community is by collaborating with agencies or nonprofits that already have the recognition and the trust of the community. Programs need to adjust to the community and not vice versa. So thank you for having me here today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Zully and Ona. It's a great way to tie up this seminar workshop today. Looks like we're about at the noon hour. So I imagine that that many of you have a lot of questions, comments, thoughts, ideas that have come up from all these different presentations. And so I would just love it if you could all, drop those into the chat box. And we're not going to obviously have time to go through them or address them today, but those will be organized, grouped, looked at, and shared with you all. I'll be sending out a follow-up next week. And then as well the presentations. So for any of you who presented today and have not already sent your presentations to me, that'd be great if you could send them to me, and I'll send those out as well to everybody here. But the main thing I want to emphasize is that a lot of very good information was presented in a short amount of time today. And hopefully this will give us the ground in which to have very meaningful facilitated dialogues in workshop 2, which will be April 28th. So again, drop your questions, comments, thoughts into the chat box, and then you'll be getting more information from the coalition in the following week regarding workshop number 2. And so thank you again. I just like to extend the coalition's appreciation for all of the wonderful presentations from each of you today. And I think that just really sets a great perspective, a glimpse really of the landscape and of some of the wonderful work that's being done, as well as some of the barriers that I think so many folks on this call from the different organizations you represent, from governments, cities, state and county, to the implementers, to utilities, to the MFA, there's probably solutions that can manifest that we might not have thought about in our own different silos, and which hopefully will come forth in this next workshop. So thank you all, and take a few minutes to drop your comments, thoughts into the chat box, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.